It's Friday, September 9th. This is a pre-open video on the SPY about 15 minutes before the open here. You can see here after two green days in a row, our pre-market range in these blue lines, which I'll show you in a second, is above the broadening highs that I was discussing in the closing video yesterday. So we are broadening out higher. Now it's a question of where we go and what to look for. What are some of the key levels? If we start up a little bit above this blue line, which is kind of above this high here last week, don't be surprised if we reach the next high, which was kind of the Monday high of the week before. On the weekly chart, that completes our 3-up day that we were anticipating. Given that we failed on the 2 down, we moved above the midpoint of the prior week. That projects high to the high of the prior week. So it looks like we have a chance to get there if we can follow through above that opening bar to start. Red line. Now the interesting thing here is I drew this circle. That is not only the final broadening action, in terms of this first move, green bar up, you had all these potential stops to hit, and it looks like we're going to possibly get there. But that then sets up this circle, which is like a gap area. If you look at it, the low of that bar and the high of this bar creates a little circle in here. And that would be a place where if this market is not going to go any higher, this would be a logical place to resist. If you want to think of a trend line coming down, it kind of gets up to that point too. There's a lot of reasons here why if this is going to be a bear trend, then that could be the stalling point. So it's something to watch for. It's not something to immediately sell into, but we would watch, how the market, if it hits up there, do we reject strongly? What happens on Monday into next week? A whole bunch of things. You can be very patient before you eventually get short, as I've discussed many times now. Until we, on the monthly chart, even though we're early in September, until we get below the open of the month, we're not going to get too bearish because, we just want to, this is going to be a green month. But if we see any kind of signs that are starting to attack that open, we can start getting short. Again, I don't necessarily expect that today or early, or any time immediately soon, but we're going to watch for it. And again, this gap area that I talked about on the daily chart here, after the weekly chart broadens out a little bit, right in this area, that kind of equates with the midpoint of the prior month. So that could be an area too. If you hold early in September and we start working our way down next week, then, maybe that's the high we're going to get for this month, and then the rest of the month's going to head down. On the other hand, if things don't fail up in here, should we get there, then we could be broadening much higher. So a lot to look for. But today, in terms of today's trading, let's keep an eye on this opening range as always, the blue lines. Let's see if we do work above there. If we do work above there, keep in mind that this is kind of the next target, and we're going to watch really what happens there. If somehow we fail and, come all the way down, we're going to have to see a lot for this day to be negative. In other words, we're going to have to open up, we're going to have to fail, we're going to have to come below the blue line, the first lower blue line. Once we get to there, we're still not even below the midpoint of yesterday. So, it's only the failure would only occur if we open up somewhere in here and get below the midpoint of yesterday. If some collapse happens and you get down there, then maybe this whole week's, then you could kind of anticipate maybe next week heading lower. But for now, we're nowhere near any of that. So we're just going to stay a little positive. Let's keep in mind there's a potential, exit, final point up here to this rally, but you never know. So at this point, let's play the strength to the upside and just see what we get today, and we'll follow up later.